I want to get right to the big news of this week, which is the Kavanaugh hearings and the unexpected intrusion of the lady who says that 36 years ago, as a high school student, he attacked her. As a senator, as a male, how do you approach this, still trying to get this carried through, but making sure that everything is on the up and up?
Well, that's why we're having hearings this coming Monday, so that we can hear from the accuser and also hear from the accused. We want to make sure that the due process rights of both the accuser and the accused are respected in this process. We're wanting to make sure that we do it all methodically and carefully. And while we wish we had had a chance to do it earlier, we take these things as they arise, and we're going to look into it thoroughly.
In all honesty, does it not bother you that if Senator Feinstein had this information in July, that she didn't bring it forth during the time that the hearings were going on and the meetings with the senators and Judge Kavanaugh were taking place? How frustrating is that?
Tremendously frustrating. And I think it was a breach of a collegial duty that she has to us to keep us abreast of information that she had, information that she's apparently had since July 30th. Look, we have a process, and that process has been respected up until this point. We had a special part of the hearing a couple weeks ago that was designed specifically to address anything like this that might have come up. Senator Feinstein didn't even show up to that part of the hearing, much less let us know about information that she had apparently received in late July.
Let's talk about the book you've written out of history, things about our founders that maybe we did not really know. What are some things that most Americans would be surprised to learn about our founders and how they might not have been a part of the, let's just say, the fifth grade version of American history?
We tend to think of our founding fathers as just fathers, when many of them were mothers. People like Mum Bet and Mercy Otis Warren, who I discuss in this book. And there are other founders who don't fit into the narrative either. We think of them as just being white and male. Some of them were Native American, like Canasatego. Canasatego was an Iroquois Indian chief of the Onondaga tribe. He's the one who taught Benjamin Franklin about the principle of federalism. You know, this idea embedded in the Constitution, made clear in the 10th Amendment that most of the power in our federal system is supposed to remain close to the people at the state and local level. This was not something we inherited from the British. This was a uniquely American concept. In fact, a Native American concept.
You made a comment in the book that some of the founders didn't originally want to sign the Constitution. Why not?
Elbridge Gerry, for example, was one of only a small handful of founders who were present both at the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia in 1787 and were present for the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Of that handful, he was the only one who refused to sign the Constitution, the only one of those who had also been present at the signing of the Declaration. The reason he didn't was because he feared that it contained inadequate protections for individual liberties. And he held out for a Bill of Rights. He wanted to make sure that government didn't have too much power. He understood that when big governments, especially a large national government, amasses unrestricted power, it always happens at the expense of individual liberty, and that's bad.
I think the founders would be shocked to see how big the federal government has become, how little the states really control things in their own states anymore. They're held hostage by the federal government.
I agree with you, Governor. They would be very surprised if they saw what's happening today, where we've turned this principle of federalism on its head. Instead of most of the power being close to the people, the state and local level, we've transferred most of it to Washington. Instead of laws within the federal government being made by the people's elected representatives, we've handed that task over to unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats. In some ways, there's nothing new under the sun. In some ways, what we face today is similar to frustrations that existed at the time of the Revolution. We had the American people who grew tired of a large, distant national government that knew no restrictions on its power and that was slow to respond to the needs of the people. Fortunately, today, we don't need another revolution, because what we have is already a system of governance that's already law of the land. It's in our Constitution. We just have to rediscover it and have to implement it according to the way we vote and the way we influence American political discourse.
Well, Senator, it's a brilliant book. It's one we need. I hope people will get a copy of it and read it. Written out of history, the forgotten founders who fought big government. It's something we all need to continue fighting. It is a much-needed American history lesson. I want to say to our viewers, it's available at Amazon and all the best booksellers across the country. You can also keep up with Senator Mike Lee at lee.senate.gov or on Facebook at Senator Mike Lee. And I hope you will. Don't miss out getting this book. Every American needs to read it. I think you'll love your country and the Constitution a whole lot more.